I never imagined that the road I took that morning would lead me into the worst nightmare a mother could ever face. I left my home with the simple intention, a quiet desire to surprise my daughter at her workplace. My name is Salma. I am 62 years old and I have only one daughter, Leanne. For months, I had believed what she told me, that she was managing her husband's restaurant, overseeing it as he had promised, that she had left her stable job as a literature teacher to build their shared dream together. I never trusted her husband, Rami, not even once, but I convinced myself that marriage could soften people, that love might reshape even the hardest hearts. The restaurant was called the Golden Spoon, a name that suggested elegance but hid unbearable ugliness beneath it. From the moment I stepped inside, discomfort crept into my chest. The tables were dirty, dried food clung to the edges, the smell of old oil filled the air, and the walls were coated with grease that had not been cleaned for a long time. I approached the waitress, who was chewing gum carelessly, and asked about my daughter. She smirked and said, "The manager? Go to the back." The way she pronounced the word manager tightened my chest. I walked down the narrow hallway, each step heavier than the last. When I entered the kitchen, the stench of burnt oil and spoiled food struck me. Chaos ruled the place. Cooks moved around in filthy clothes, voices overlapping in endless noise. I searched for Leanne among the faces, among the disorder, until I saw her. She was crouched in a dark corner beside the sink, withdrawn into herself, wearing stained clothes, her hair tied carelessly. My daughter, who once stood confidently before her students reciting poetry, had become a faint shadow of who she was. And she was eating, not from her own plate, but from a customer's leftovers. Cold lasagna, marked with fork scratches, devoured in desperate haste. Tears streamed down her face and she did not see me, blinded by hunger. I froze in place, as if time had stopped. Then I heard his voice. Rami entered the kitchen wearing an elegant suit, a cruel contrast to the filth around him. He looked at her with contempt and said loudly so everyone could hear that she had been hungry, but those who made mistakes did not deserve better. Anyone who lost him money ate what customers left behind. This was her place. Some of the cooks laughed awkwardly. The plate slipped from her hands, sauce splashed onto her shoes, and she covered her face and cried quietly. Then he saw me. He smiled shamelessly and welcomed me, inviting me to witness my daughter's talent in his restaurant. I said nothing. I stepped forward and took Leanne's hand. Her fingers were cold, thin, trembling with fear. She whispered an apology through broken breath. I told her calmly to come with me. As we walked away, Rami shouted after us that she was fired, from the job and from his life. He threw an envelope onto the floor, a few bills spilling out, claiming it was her final pay. I did not look back. I stopped a taxi and asked the driver to take us to the finest restaurant in the city. When we entered, eyes turned toward Leanne, her simple clothes, her swollen eyes. I seated her at a spotless white table, placed the menu before her, and told her to order whatever she wanted. There were no rules here. She stared at the menu as if it were forbidden, then began to eat slowly, then with real hunger, but this time from a clean plate she deserved. I stepped away to a quiet corner. I did not go to the restroom. I took out my phone and called a number I had sworn never to call again. My brother, Yusuf, the man who ruined his own life, the man who owed me an unforgettable debt. He answered cautiously and asked what was wrong. I looked at my daughter, at the city, at every injustice poured onto her life, and said calmly that it was time for him to repay his debt. I needed his help to erase a man named Rami from our path. He was silent for a long moment, then said one word, "All right." Within a single day, everything began to change. The complaints Rami had filed against Leanne vanished. Massive financial violations suddenly surfaced: tax evasion, fraud, money laundering. Within 48 hours, the restaurant was officially shut down. Rami was summoned for investigation. His partners abandoned him. His accounts were frozen. His name erased from every list he once bragged about. And then he disappeared from the city, not as a fugitive, but as someone expelled from every door. During those days, I never left Leanne's side. She slowly regained her weight, her health, her love for literature. She returned to her books, to herself, step by step. One morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. She sat beside me, smiled softly, and thanked me for saving her life. I told her that no one in this world had the right to humiliate her. She was my daughter. Days later, Yusuf called and said only one sentence: "The debt is paid." I did not ask. I did not want to know. All I knew was that my daughter had returned to life, and the man who humiliated her had vanished from every place. And so, the story ended. A mother saved her daughter, a brother repaid an old debt, and a man who believed he owned the world lost everything because he forgot one simple truth. When a mother's daughter is wounded, she becomes a force that cannot be stopped.